Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, whatever the case may be. Hello, students. This is going to be a little bit of a strange class because nobody's here except for me. But I'm going to try to make it almost like a normal lesson, and then you can follow along while you're watching on YouTube. So I'm going to start like we usually start with our verb warm-up, and you should already have this warm-up. I sent it to you through Remind and WhatsApp earlier today, so you should have it. So let me go ahead and open up that. It's the file called Warm-Up 430. And again, always good to start with the verbs every day because the verbs are a big part of English. So let's begin. Here we go. The first one has the word would improve. Would. Remember this from our study of conditionals because we have if over here. Remember, would has a partner, right? Present and will, past and would. So we're going to go ahead and put a past tense verb here. We're going to write the word studied, like so. Now the next one is a little bit tricky, but we have to think about it. It says not yet, so we think, oh, maybe present perfect. But we look over here and it says in the 19th century. So not present perfect, but past perfect. So in the 19th century, people hadn't, and then I'm going to use my past participle, invented. In the 19th century, people hadn't invented the automobile yet. The next one is about next Saturday night. That's future, so no problem there. So we're going to just use, we could use will, but I'm going to use going to because going to is more for asking about somebody's plans. Of course, I could always say, what are you doing next Saturday night too? Present continuous is good for plans as well. Now the next one says, for the last few months, got that keyword for. So that's our present perfect and present perfect continuous, right? So I'm going to say have had or have been having. Both would be acceptable. I would probably say have been having because it's more like a temporary situation. Good. The next one, number 5, rolling along here, says enjoys. Enjoy is with a gerund. Remember, verbs that show your emotion about doing something are going to be with gerund. So I'm going to say Frank enjoys working with computers. Got to have a gerund there. Now the next one is one of our classics from level 3. We have an action that's interrupted. When you called me last night, I was in the middle of something. What was I in the middle of? I was sleeping. We want our past continuous there to indicate the action was interrupted. A long action interrupted by a shorter action. The next one, last Saturday, we're going to use did, right? What did you buy at the mall last Saturday? Last Saturday, simple past, so we use did. Great. Now here's what we're talking about this week. Look at the subject of this one. The subject is turkey. So turkey is a thing. The families are the ones who are eating. The turkey is the food. So what are we going to say? Every Thanksgiving, the turkey is eaten. What is that? That's present tense and passive. Present tense and passive. The turkey is eaten. Present tense, passive. Remember, passive is be verb, past participle. We're going to talk about that a little later today. Number 9, we have if. If is a simple present when we use will on the other side, right? Present and future. So we're going to just use good old simple present. If Jack comes to my party, I will be glad. Now the next one is another if, but this one's going to be negative, not. So I'm going to still use simple present, but I'm going to use the simple present negative. Don't want. If you don't want to go to the movies, we can stay home tonight. Well, we all have to stay home tonight, don't we? More virus. We'll have to wait for movies for a while. Now, the next one says already. Already is present perfect, huh? And this is singular, so we use has. And our past participle is sold. Mr. Smith has already sold his house. Great. The next one here is at the moment. At the moment means now. So that means we need present continuous, doesn't it? So who is your teacher talking to at the moment? The next one, my mother plans. Plan is one of those verbs that we use with an infinitive. So we're going to say to prepare lasagna for dinner tonight. Plans to prepare lasagna. Fantastic. Look at number 14. What's the subject? A thing. Remember, when a thing is the subject, the verb is usually passive. So what are we going to do? We're going to use a future passive. Future passive will be past participle. Will be, S-E-N-T is our past participle, right? Sent. The application will be sent to you next week. Now, number 15 has that word while, a classic from level 3. While plus past continuous, right? While I was driving. Past continuous. I had a flat tire, right? The flat tire happened in the middle of my drive. I was in the middle of doing one thing when another thing happened. The next one is intend. Intend is an action of future plans, right? Usually for those future actions, we tend to use infinitives. So, intends to give his wife a diamond necklace for Christmas this year. What a nice present, a diamond necklace. My wife will not be getting one of those this year. How long? How long is one of our key words from level 3. It's a present perfect. That was level 3, chapter 2 in our book. So what are we going to say? How long has Janet, and this is an action that's still in progress, so we're going to say been practicing. How long has Janet been practicing the violin today? Number 18, look at this one. No subject. We want the action to be the subject. When the action is the subject, what are we going to do? We're going to use our gerund. We could do an infinitive, but it's very rare in spoken English. At the present time, says number 19. At the present time, well, that means now. So the present time, we're going to say he isn't looking. He isn't looking for a job. The next one, how much champagne? Okay, we're talking about a party that was last night, right? Our time is last night. Remember, our time words are usually at the end of the sentence. So how much champagne? We're going to use past tense question. Did you drink? Perfect. I was watching TV while. Well, we just had while a minute ago, didn't we? Where was that? Right up here, number 15. We use past continuous there. We're going to use it again. So while my mother was washing the dishes. Was washing. The next one has that word since, another key word of present perfect. So we're going to say Jack hasn't been. Jack hasn't been in class since last Friday. Number 23 says, every Saturday I try. Try is, again, an action that's potential in the future. You're trying to do something. So we want to use our infinitive. Potential actions, we tend to use infinitives. About, preposition. What comes after preposition? ing. Jim is thinking about asking his father for a loan. The next one, number 25. How many cars tomorrow? Well, that's future, so let's just use will to finish up here. How many cars will the mechanic work on tomorrow? So hopefully, if you did this in advance, you checked your work and it was perfect. And if it wasn't perfect, don't worry. Little by little, practice makes perfect, and we're going to do a lot of practice today as well. Okay, so having done that, we're going to jump out, and I'm going to share another screen with you, and I'm going to share my slideshow for today. Last week we talked about, not last week, the last lesson. The last lesson we talked about the different kinds of passive, but we've only been practicing 3. We're practicing simple present, simple past, and simple future. Am, is, are for the present, was and were for the past, and will be for the future. So today we're going to look at a couple more passive forms, but a little bit more complicated. A little bit more complicated. So let me open up that little slide for you. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to open it up. Slideshow. Here we go. All right, away we go. All right, passive voice using more complicated tenses with passive. The tenses we're going to concentrate on today are perfect tenses and continuous tenses. And they're a little tricky and easy to get mixed up. So let's talk. We have already learned that we use passive voice. We want to focus on the object instead of the subject, right? John sold the most hot dogs, active voice. The most hot dogs were sold by John, passive voice. Right? We had this in our lesson a couple days ago. The zookeeper feeds the animals every day, active. The animals are fed every afternoon, passive, right? If the person is the subject, we want an active verb. But on the other hand, if we want a passive verb, that means hot dogs, a thing, or animals are the subject, right? Usually people are the subjects of active sentences, and things are the subject of passive sentences, typically. Remember our basic tenses. What did we use? Am, is, are, was, were, and be, with the past participle. Let me give you some examples of what we've already learned. Right? The dishes are washed after every meal. Good old simple present. The mail is delivered every afternoon. Right? Dishes was plural, so we use are. Mail is non-countable singular, so we use is. The patient was given an injection. There's the passive with past tense, was given. These tamales were made by my mother. Again, simple past, were made. Be verb in singular, was, plural, were. Your car will be repaired by the end of the day. Will be repaired. It's not repaired yet, but it will be repaired by the end of the day. Future passive verb. Future passive verb. Okay, so far so good. Everything so far is what we've been talking about in the past. All right. Let's take a look at our pictures, and we see this one here is already there, but you'll see it. Remember these steps from the last time we talked? Henry drew the picture, becomes the picture was drawn by Henry. Right? And what are our steps? Step 1, put the object into the subject position. Right? That's what I did here. I took the object and I put it into the subject position. Step 2, I changed to the be verb. In this case, was. Step 3, drawn, right? I changed drew, an active simple past, to drawn, the past participle. And finally, I put by and the original subject. We talked about this before. All right, so let's talk about things we haven't talked about yet. Let's go to the next slide here. Remember our reasons to use passive, same as before. This is the same slide we had before, right? When I don't know who is doing the action. Example, my bicycle was stolen. When it's obvious who's doing it. I don't have to mention it because, of course. Example, the mail is usually delivered at 2. When the person doing the action is not important. Everybody is important, but sometimes it's not important in the sentence. Example, the blouse was made in Italy. Was made is used because I'm talking about the blouse. I'm not talking about the worker in the factory in Italy, right? The blouse is what I'm talking about because it's right here in front of us. And finally, when the action applies to all people. We saw some of that in our study last night when we were talking about those rules, right? Students are expected to. Or, for example, textbooks can be bought at the student store. All right, very good, very good. Let's look then at what we need to talk about, the new information for tonight. Present perfect passive. Okay. Present perfect is a little bit tricky because we want to use have and been, but not ing, right? Before we use present perfect continuous, we've used have been ing. I have been working all day. My sister has been living in Detroit since 1992. My brother has been sleeping for 3 hours, right? But now we're going to use have been, has been, past participle, and that changes the meaning. Example, has the copy machine been repaired yet? We need that little been to make it passive. Otherwise, it's an active sentence. The windows haven't been washed for a long time. Haven't been washed. Present perfect again. Don't worry, the kitchen floor has already been swept. Has already been swept. Again, we're focusing on the floor, so we have a present perfect passive. Some of the rules have been changed recently, right? Who changed the rules? Not important right now. The key point is the rules have been changed. The patient has just been released from the hospital. The patient has just been released from the hospital. That would be good news for everybody these days. And some patients are still struggling. We'll think about them in our thoughts. All right, the patient has just been released. Again, look very carefully here. What do we have? Been repaired, been washed, been swept, been changed, been released. We need that been to make it passive. Because have repaired is not passive. Haven't washed is not passive. That's just regular present perfect. And let me show you the difference very clearly. Be careful. Be careful because these two are very tricky because they're both using past participle. However, we have to keep in mind that they are very different when we use them. The active and the passive look very similar. They both have past participle, they both have, but they're very different. Let me show you what I mean with two very clear examples. The kids have eaten. Typical sentence. And when I say that, what do I mean? I mean they're not hungry anymore, right? See these two kids, they have a clean plate. They're smiling at their mother. They're not hungry anymore because they have eaten. Now, if I say the kids have been eaten, oopsie, that's not good, because what are we saying? have been eaten by a hungry lion, right? We don't want to get these two confused, right? If you say the kids have eaten, that's a normal Tuesday. But if you say the kids have been eaten, that's a horrible tragedy, right? So be very careful with present perfect. Have eaten means one thing, normal English. Have been eaten is rather shocking because somebody ate the kids, and we don't want to say that. So be very careful with been in your sentences, right? Been is okay with ing, but when you have been and past participle, you've created a passive. So be very careful about that. All right, let's take a look at the next slide, which is past perfect. Now, past perfect is very, very similar to present perfect in the form. The only difference, instead of saying have or has, we're going to say had. Let's take a look at some examples. Had been, past participle. By the time I got home, dinner had already been prepared. The cafe was robbed last night. That one is simple past passive, right? It had never been robbed before. Past perfect. Had never been. The bicycle was very rusty. Right? Rust means like oxidation on the bicycle, right? It hadn't been used in a long time. If your bicycle's out in your garage, you'll look at it, maybe it gets a little rusty. It hadn't been used in a long time. I checked online, but the grades hadn't been posted yet. Remember, whenever we use past perfect, we always have past tense as well. Checked, was, got. We always have another past tense. Past perfect is for comparing one past tense action and another past tense action. Two past tense actions compared. This one happened, but this other thing had already happened. Okay? And in past perfect, something had already been done. The action had already been done. That been makes it passive. All right, next slide, continuous. Well, perfect is been, B-E-E-N. Continuous is going to be being, B-E-I-N-G, B-E-I-N-G. And again, we're going to use our past participle. Example, don't worry, your car is being repaired right now. Your car is being repaired right now. Is makes it present, but the being makes it continuous, right? Simple present is just be and past participle, right? So for example, my car, the oil in my car is changed every week. But my oil is being changed right now, right? Is changed every 6 months. Is being changed right now. That being means it's happening now. Otherwise, you're to have a general action. These houses are being torn down to build a new school, right? Tear down means demolish, right? There's a demolition going on. These houses are being torn down. I'm nervous. I'm being observed by my supervisor today. Again, today means present continuous. So I am being observed. In fact, teachers are observed every year or every 2 years. I don't remember. And so sometimes the teacher is watching me. Another teacher is watching me, or my principal is watching me, because the teachers are observed every 2 years. And I was observed earlier this year by my supervisor. The office was being painted when I arrived yesterday. What do we have there? Past tense, past continuous, right? Was makes it past. Being makes it continuous. Was being painted. While the cookies were being baked, I read a magazine. Again, were being baked, while plus continuous. And the being makes it continuous. And there's some nice cookies. Getting hungry. I can't eat today, though. All right, so there we go. Let's go to the next slide. Some practice. All right, can you change the active into passive? First, we're going to start with only perfect and continuous. So what does that mean? That means we need either being or been in every answer. Let's look at this first one. The housekeeper has made the beds. Has made. That's present perfect, right? Has made. So what can we say instead? We're going to say we're going to take that object and put it in front. The beds have been made. And you could say by the housekeeper or not, no problem. Right? This is perfect, so we use been. We're painting the house now. Not perfect. This one is continuous, right? This one is present continuous. So what can we say? Again, we're going to take the object and put it in front. The house is being painted now. Been for the perfect, being for the passive, continuous. The vendor hasn't sold all the hot dogs yet. All right, hasn't sold. Present perfect again, but present perfect negative. But doesn't matter, we're going to change it to present perfect with a passive, haven't been sold. Haven't been sold. Haven't been. Notice I had to change from hasn't to haven't. Why? Because vendor is singular and hot dogs are plural. One more on this page. Carlos is preparing the sandwiches. That is plural and it is present continuous. But the subject is sandwiches now. So we're going to use are. The sandwiches are being prepared by Carlos. Are being prepared. Good. All right. 4 more. Let's see what we can do. Manny isn't washing the dishes now. Present continuous, but negative. Present continuous, but negative. So how can we fix this? Well, we're going to still have to put dishes in the first position. But instead of saying isn't, I'm going to change it to aren't. And of course, because it's continuous, I'm going to add the word being. The dishes aren't being washed now. Okay. Number 6. Has anyone found the missing laptop? Has anyone found the missing laptop? All right, what can we do? That's present perfect question. Present perfect question. So we're going to try to make the laptop the subject. It's a question, so we still need to keep has in the question position. But has the missing laptop been found? Present perfect, passive. Present perfect, passive. Number 7. Miguel was washing the van at noon today. Okay? Was washing, that's past continuous. So we still need past continuous, but what are we going to say? Not was washing, but was being washed. The van was being washed at noon today. How about the next one? When I got home, Alex had already put away the toys. When I got home, the toys had already been put away by Alex. Had already been put away. Had already been, that's a past perfect. Okay? All right, good practice. All right, so now the passive has been explained to you. Is it being used correctly? I hope so. I hope so. We'll see. All right, now we're going to do one last little practice here, and then I'm going to give you an assignment for this weekend. Okay? So I'm going to go to a new slide here, and I'm going to open up my website here if I can find it. All right, let me see here. All right, hold on. Gonna have to stop the share for a second. Always these technical difficulties. You know me and my technical difficulties. All right, now we're ready to go. Okay, let me share the screen again. Okay, here we go, back to me. My face looks very large now, but we don't want that. So let's share the screen here. Here we go. Okay, all right, now here we have 8 different passives. We have the active form over here and the passive form over here. Active and passive. So what are we going to do? We're going to try to use both forms. So, for example, they grow apples on trees, or apples are grown on trees, right? Apples are grown. Grow is active, are grown is passive. They produce caviar in Russia. They produce. Produce is the verb. But if we make caviar the subject, we need to make a passive, don't we? This is simple present and passive. So what are we going to do? Is produced. All right. Now this one, look at the passive. Is being played. Well, that's what we talked about today. That's present continuous. So what are we going to say? They, in active form, they are playing. Good. The next one, let me make this just a little bit larger so students can see the screen very easily. All right. The next one says, Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. Painting that's in Paris in the Louvre Museum. All right. So he painted the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. This is simple past over here, painted. So I'm going to use simple past over here, but passive. So what am I going to say? Was painted. Perfect. Okay. Now number 4 is past continuous. Was walking. He was walking his dog last night. So was walking, we need that being, right? We need that being. So the dog was being walked last night. Was being walked. Simple past, past continuous, passive. All right. Now the next one, we have been made. That's present perfect. So we want to put present perfect over here. So what can we say? Has been. No, we don't want been. We just want has made. She has made a lot of friends. Right? The been is for the passive. Or the continuous, of course. Number 6 is simple future. Simple future. Okay, will make. So what can we say here? Will be made. Right? Remember, we use be with the future. And we use be with a lot of things, right? Will be, can be, might be, should be, may be, must be. All of the modals use be. Now number 7 is a question. Now this is a tricky one. Remember what we said in our last lesson. With passive, we don't use do or did or does. But with an active verb, we have to use do, did, and does. So this one is last month, so that's simple past. So we just want our normal simple past question. Did they, and past tense base form, sell? Did they sell a lot of products last month? Did they sell? Simple past, passive. Simple past, active. So this one is passive, were. This one is active, did. Did is active, were is passive. I said that a little wrong in the first place, but I think you got the idea. Active over here with did. Passive over here with were. All right, the next one is a negative, wasn't. Now remember, we want wasn't in the negative in passive, but do we want wasn't in affirmative, excuse me, in negative past tense? No, we don't. In active form, we want to say didn't, right? Bell didn't invent, and no ed, right? Remember, base form with the negative in past tense. All right, there we go. Let's check our answers and see how we did. 100%. Congratulations. You guys are so smart. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, now let me give you your homework for the weekend. Okay, of course I want you to continue watching those videos on Connect with English, so you can do that. But I also have one more little piece of homework that I want you to try this weekend, and I'm going to go to my next slide here for just a second and open that up. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing on your screen the Cheetah page. This one happens to be Intermediate High B, but I want you to go to your spring testing folder. That's your red folder here, and notice we've already got 9 and 10 in chapter 1, and I made the folder a little bit bigger in chapter 1 so you can finish those statements that you didn't have enough room for. So if you want to go back and do that, you can. And then here's chapter 2. So give that chapter 2 test a little try. It's all about the passive. We're going to talk a little bit more in chapter 2 next week. But why don't you take the test this weekend and see how you do. And if you don't have a chance to get to it this weekend, there will always be next week. Okay? Good. All right. I'm going to stop that share. All right. We're finished. That wasn't so painful, hopefully. So we'll see everybody back in class at 7 o'clock on Monday night. And I wish you well and have a great weekend. And I'll be back hopefully with a clean bill of health on Monday night. So take care, and we'll see you Monday night. And good luck on all this work. Okay? Bye-bye.